What? So they looked like ship sharp shape.
Yeah, I mean, like just perfect.
That's
I don't
fine. I've got
know,
a
like
receding
other
hairline,
other
so
women do better. I don't know, like they're better at putting
well,
makeup on.
I have found from my personal experience when I've tried to decorate my home, it's really not that great. And then a woman's touch just makes it a lot better. So I'm really bad at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I
I
think the world
realize
would
in
be an
my
ugly place.
graphics, like I'm every time I'm proud of my graphics, I've got a guy like logos and stuff. Like
Mm.
there's a guy like a friend of a friend that helps me. Like he made my personal website. Now he's like, I'll do Data Girl for you. He's gonna redo my Data Girl. And
Hmm.
I showed him like I have these new like icons and stuff from this new show that's coming out, and I was so proud of them. And I was like, I'm like, I really like him. He's like, show him to me. And I showed him. He was like, and he was like, he was just giving me recommendations, like a few like words, and he just sent me two pictures. He was like, yeah. And I was like, this is like, mine is embarrassing now. I have to redo the whole thing.
Yeah, but that's just part of the learning process, isn't it? Like you do it and then you realize
I
that you
don't know. I
suck.
think you have it or you don't. I mean, there's like, I understand I have the skill of putting stories together and
Hmm.
somehow, but and simple learning materials and explaining things in a simple way, but like this visual is, yeah, not not professional level, I have to say.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think it can be taught. Like, well, maybe it's a mix. Maybe like some people just can't do it, but can be taught it. Do you know what I mean? It's like there's one placement student I had, and when we started out, like it was a bit like kind of rookie stuff. By the way, can you hear people in the background, or is it just me?
No, I don't hear anybody do.
No, I do. I do. I know they're real. That's fine. I'm not going crazy. Not yet.
But there are
But
people near you,
oh
or
yeah, they're in their garden. Yeah. I don't
no,
usually
I don't hear
record here,
anything.
so this is
No.
a new environment for me. It's like I feel like I'm out of place. Um, yeah, and she was like the skills are kind of rudimentary. They weren't very great, but then over time, I gave her a lot of like free reign and fair play to her. She picked up on me going, "Oh yeah, no, we could do that," and I constantly like nitpicked. But she was great with it, and she came out and she's like she does amazing designs now. She's really good. So I think it can
Uh-huh.
be taught. Like that's your stuff's really good though. So I don't see what you're saying.
Just wait until you see Data Girl redone by this guy. Like
Okay.
he sent me three things. He's like, these are three mood boards. And
Mm.
some people are just I just think he's like a creative genius, this guy. I honestly, some of them are just like you can do good job, but then the creative genius comes and puts you to shame. And I mean that in the best
Got
way.
you.
Like he's
Yeah,
really
someone
like
who's a
and
maestro.
and so he
Yeah.
sends me these three mood boards. Yeah. Like this
Mm.
are and this is basically like some kind of artwork to help you understand the direction. And there there was a superhero one, and there was this aimed at teens, and there was aimed at kids.
Mm.
And I looked at it and I was like, I can't believe I'm saying this, but it has to be the superhero one. Like I never wanted the superhero one. And I just saw like all of my like issues about people thinking that it's only for girls,
Mm.
and which is the big issue, and the need to be able to expand it to different age
Mm.
groups. And I was like, it has to be the superhero one, like superhero.
Yeah, no, fair enough, fair enough. And
So we'll
so
see
just
what he
for
comes up
like,
with.
just for the context, because people will be listening and they'll be like, what are these guys on about? So can you tell me what is Data Girl? Like, just so everyone knows what it is. Hit me. Give
Data
me your
Girl and
elevator pitch, you know?
Friends is my passion project, and that is basically a set of videos and stories and learning activities and games for kids and youth, basically to learn about AI and online safety and privacy and all that kind of stuff. That's basically what they need to navigate the world, the
Mm.
digital world, safely.
Okay.
That's
So
Data Girl and
and
Friends.
you do it through a lot of cartoons and like animations and stuff, and workshops as well.
Yeah, I do. I mean, it started out with just like short videos, like
Mm.
animated videos, and it's just been expanding out. And I just recently started with workshops, especially for like parents, AI for parents, and
Mm.
and that kind of thing. And also with like, I give materials to teachers and those kind of educational resources for groups who are working with children already, nonprofits and stuff.
Oh, that's cool. Nice.
By
Okay.
the way, I had a few weeks ago, this is one of those things you're like, yes, I mean, this is a direction that the world needs to go in. So I was looking for obviously some to get contacts in schools because I'm creative and I'm not one that goes out and looks for contacts. And so I look for, directly in schools, and I found someone. She was looking for, like, if anyone wants to talk, like in Oregon schools, let me know. So I contacted this person. We had a meeting, and she introduced herself as a high school junior who was working for, I wish I could remember what the name of the organization was. It's like this nationwide organization where basically high school students are teaching each other AI safety and like online safety, AI safety. And she's part of the Oregon chapter. And there's not only, there's some also in other countries. I can't remember what it's called. And she was telling me, like, she saw my videos and she saw these are really mainly aimed at younger kids. And she said, yeah, they're starting out to go into the elementary schools and they have materials for high schoolers, but they don't have materials for like elementary school students. And she said, obviously it's great because kids listen to teenagers more than they'll listen to adults. So trust like ones that are closer to them.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's just the way the world needs to be. Like the
Well,
youth helping themselves
Yeah.
and each other.
Well, it's natural community, isn't it? Like they're building their own communities around this subject, and that makes sense, right?
Yeah,
great.
they are, and I think that's the only way that's going to work. I mean, there's a lot of talk now, and finally a lot of awareness about all the risks that the online world already brings, and lots of hype about what it's going to bring in the future. And I think adults, all adults have kind of proven that we're messing this up, and we're not making it any better. We're not solving anything, or it's such a speed. It's not really going to help very much. And I think the only way is for kids and youth to empower themselves and shape the online world in a way that we're not making a priority. So I mean, it's great that I see this community, and it's not only there, it's other like happening, because there's a lot of talk about, the phones and tablets have taken away our sense of community and separated us. And I feel in the next generation, the younger generation, there's a chance that they can turn that back around, that trend. And I think they will. I think they'll figure it out. I'm very optimistic about that.
So when because you recently visited the United States, and you went to see a ton of other people that are working in this area.
Yeah.
Who are working quite hard. I've spoken to a few of them, and they seem absolutely lovely. So can you tell me a little bit more about what's going on out there, how you're getting involved, and what they're planning to do to tackle this?
Yeah, so basically what I do, just to give how I meet all these people, I just create my creative content and I put it on LinkedIn and put energy out and see which energy comes back. That's what I do. And then a lot of energy has come back, and which is heartening, because I really see people who've been in this for a long time, trying to make awareness for privacy and AI safety and all of this, who see movement happening. And I have I said probably the most reaction from the US, because I'm from the US. I've been in Europe for 30 years, but I'm from the US.
Wait, hang on. Sorry. I thought this whole time you were Italian. You're from the United States. Oh, okay. I need educating. I thought you were from Italy. Okay, because you're based in Italy, which makes sense.
I'm based in Italy. Yeah.
Yes, but you're from the United States. Okay, well, you learn something new every day, so I didn't know that.
That's hilarious. I've been in Europe for 30 years, so if an American hears me speaking now here, will often think like this is a person who learned English really well. They won't guess usually that I'm from Indiana. If I go there, they make fun of me. I'm from Indiana. They make fun of me because I don't have an accent from there. But I'm from there. And that's one of the reasons I know, actually, that we as adults whenever I say we, I'm giving like the all of basically everyone who's above 30, 25.
That's fine. Don't
I'm
involve me.
very
Well,
broad
I'm
with this.
26, so
Like,
don't bring me into it. I
yeah,
haven't
well,
done
yeah,
anything wrong.
you're
I'm a
still not
delight.
there. I, but like we will never understand. We'll never have the answers
Mm,
for the digital generation,
mm,
simply because how you grew up as a kid is always what you carry with you. You can change. I lived in 6 different countries and I speak just as many languages. And I said I haven't been living in the Midwest for 30 years, but I'm clearly, my whole mentality is that is fashioned by like the ground, the basis that I have there. Yeah.
mm,
That's just it. And I also, for example, I don't almost never comment on politics in a foreign country
hmm.
because I believe that someone needs to know like so much of history to understand what's happening in politics. And I think this usually can only come from having like grown up there where you learn like all this history
Mm.
and the society on a much deeper basis. And that's why I think that when we try to help kids and youth and the digital generation, digital natives from up above in the sense of older years, we're never going to get it because we can't understand how they lived. We cannot understand how they see the world.
Mm.
Uh, I think we can learn a lot, but we can never do it without them, without their involvement. I
Yeah, they have
strongly
to be
believe that
involved.
just based on
Yeah.
my experience. That's why I think adults, I always tell parents if they ask me, like, how can I help my kids with AI? I said, well, probably, I mean, if they're a certain age, they'll know more than you about AI. And
Mm.
I've also read some research and also articles and comments from young people saying they think they know online safety better than the adults and they don't listen.
Yeah.
And I say they probably do, but they don't know like the world. That's why we say to
Mm.
parents, like, you don't know the world. They don't know the world. They
Yeah.
don't know what kind of risks are out there. They don't know how many times we've all been at risk and saved ourselves and saved other people. And that's what you can
That's the
add.
key, right? Yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
that's
it's
the key.
online
It's
or
the wisdom.
offline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, well, I grew up with it all, and I mean, it's markedly way worse now than it was when I was growing up. Way worse. And I think that's like a I think that's it's not so much a technological problem. I think it's because tools are great whichever way you use them, or they can be absolutely terrible. But I think it's a social and cultural problem. That's very much like replicated itself throughout a lot of the Western countries, at least. But so much in the East as well. But I think yeah, like there's a as I've grown up and become the adult, kind of, is I think there's a lot. When I was a kid, I was like, oh yeah, I know more, and I did know more digitally, yeah. But there's that air of wisdom that's missing, and I don't know. It's hard to pass it on to kids when they think that you're the authority, so they don't want to embrace you with something that causes insecurity because it's exactly the opposite of what they want to do in that situation. But it's hard. It's so difficult. Yeah.
No, I mean, I just want to like go into what you said about authority. You're the authority. Yeah.
Mm,
And I think that sentence and that mindset is a big part of the problem
mm,
because in the digital world where it is so much basically defining life, defining how we see things, all ages are, spending a lot of time on social media and all of this and being influenced by it. And it's just parents, in my view, cannot present themselves as the authority. We have certain authorities. Obviously, like I'm the one that decides when my daughter, if she's gonna do her homework or if she's
mm.
gonna like go out walking around by herself. All of this, I have, but I cannot pretend like the traditional hierarchical society that the parents were the ones that knew and set the rules and I'm the authority because it doesn't work. I just don't think it works when we don't know the online world and we have to be able to admit, I don't know. I have to be able to admit, like, my instinct tells me that this is wrong, but I don't know. Let's figure this out together. And that's why obviously parents still need to be authorities, but in a different way. We need to learn together with our kids. We need to not pretend like we have the answers. Like I mean, I'm learning together. I mean, it's difficult. My daughter's young; she's not online. But anytime if she wants to know something about AI that I don't know, I just say I don't know. We'll ask ask the chatbot.
Tell Sid. Tell Sid.
And that's
yeah,
okay.
Yeah, tell Sid.
I mean, because we live still in a society where it's not always good to say I don't know or I haven't understand. I don't understand.
Yeah, there is there's almost like an embarrassment to not knowing something, even though it's silly because we're really wrong like all the time. It's like the best thing we do. It's like the most common thing we do is get things wrong. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, with the whole family unit thing, it's interesting because you look at it this way. Like, so for instance, look at the 1920s as an example. There was a stay-at-home parent. Predominantly, yes, back then it was the woman that stayed at home. But then even like going into the 70s in the United Kingdom as an example, there was dads that stayed at home and mums that went to work and stuff. But there was always one parent at home to kind of facilitate the values and the kids can replicate those and take care of them and kind of put their views on it. And you're right, with online, it's turned it on its head because the kids genetically they learn quicker than an adult does because the brain's hyped up for like a sponge. It just soaks everything in. And then the kids, because they spend more time building the internet to a degree, they've shaped it, in a manner of which where the culture's just completely different, and thus their mindset and their perspective of the world is completely different to the older generations, which is like phenomenally changing the world and the way we act in it, for good and bad, I guess. But I don't know. I think there's still like, sorry, on that subject, I completely deviated off there. But on that subject, like, we've seen the households kind of crumble in the sense of both parents have to work typically these days, and they barely survive anyway economically. With say just one child, but then there's, whilst they're both working, they don't get to parent the child as much as they used to. They doubled the productivity of the household, yet economically they're probably getting a third of what they did accounting for inflation back then, which is crazy. And then the kids are being raised online in this culture, which is then, as you say, it's good and bad. It's twisted in some places and not in others. And I don't know. I think that's having a real negative impact where we're seeing so much violence, confusion, stress, division. It's so easy to, like, if I wanted to kill a country that had like a big army and nuclear weapons, I'd go for the kids and I'd turn them against each other, because then when all the older people start dying off, the country's not a country anymore. It's gone. Values are gone. So I don't know. I think the not authoritarian, but I think the authority's good, but I think it's being taken away by external factors. I don't think the parents can be parents anymore. I think the tools that they've got are inadequate. Like that piece of paper you get given by a charity is like, do this, don't do this, and you're like, oh, okay, thanks, mate.
Well, the tools are definitely not adequate.
They're rubbish.
I mean, I'm actually always surprised at how much kids and youth are able to absorb if you explain to them like how things are damaging them, and you set limits, especially this digital, and explain, like, just have, for example, my daughter's so young and she's not online very much at all, but she watches like TV in the evening. She'll watch her 2 shows, and it always at the very end, I want to watch another. Oh, I want to see the next one. And I just say to her,
got that binge
do you
effect from
understand
Netflix.
what's happening to you?
Oh, yeah.
You understand why you want to keep watching, right? And she's learned. She's like, yeah, that was exciting at the end. And there's the autoplay. And I was like, yeah. And then she realizes, I mean, and if you think about why people are online, I agree with you. Like, parents are working, both parents are working often more than one job. Schools in a lot of countries get out at a time where there's no way that parent can be with them. I mean, here here in southern Italy where I live, it's common that the schools, they get out at like 1:30. So what are you going to do with your kid between 1:30 and 5? In the US, I remember it was 3 when I
Yeah,
was
here
growing
it's
up a long
3.
time ago,
Yeah.
like 3. And in our school, we can pay for after school. I mean, at the school, that's relatively, it's not, doesn't cost that much. But anyway, the schools are kind of out of sync with this need to that both parents working.
Mm.
School systems obviously are very difficult to change the timing,
Yep.
and people are online because there's a lack of alternatives. Because
Mm.
obviously, most people, if you will give them an alternative, they will almost always a good alternative. They'll take the alternative because
Yeah.
being online. And think about what the alternatives were before. I mean, they could play outside in the parks. They were
Those are good
trusted to
days.
be out there by
Yeah.
themselves. They could take walks outside.
Mm.
They could go to neighbors' houses.
Mm.
Just play. Some neighbor will take care of them, and all of this is for various reasons not really often an option anymore. People don't know their neighbors. Even if they do know their neighbors, they would never dream of leaving their kids there or asking them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and if you let your kids walk around in the streets by yourself, you probably get fined and
Yeah.
arrested or something. Or
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
so the alternatives aren't there. And
Mm.
this super easy alternative appeared, which is basically a tablet or a
Mm.
phone. And this is, as you say, this is the tool that the parents have been handled. And often the parents, if you meet parents, after the summer holidays, everyone's like, "Oh, so can't wait that my child's not watching the phone anymore."
Mm.
And they don't know like what to do to help to stop. As you say, we can't blame the parents if
No.
society as a whole, as you said, has changed, and we haven't given them the tools because as you say, people are barely getting by as it is,
Mm.
and it's really a lot of work to wean someone off of digital. It's a lot
Yeah.
of work to change. I mean, you get home from work completely exhausted, and all you want to do is sit and vegetate.
Yeah. No. It's
No,
like
I mean,
literally whack something in the oven, pop on the telly, and just
yeah, you
sit
just
down
want
with
to
a glass
sit
of
and
whiskey and
stare
be.
into
Oh.
space or
Yeah.
look the phone yourself. And but and then if you're being told no, don't do that because then your kids are online too, and you're the bad
Yeah.
example. You
Yeah.
have to put tons of effort. I know this from myself, and so much effort into this. You're like, this is the last thing I want to be doing right now. I love my child with all of me, but I'm
Mm.
exhausted.
Yeah. Well, and I think the other thing we have to accept is that, much like Instagram, because that's a pile of, we're not perfect. We're not perfect. We're going to make mistakes. It's fine. And kids get that. Like if they see the parents make mistakes and the parents kind of like admit it to a degree or what have you, the kid then understands that it's acceptable to be human to a point, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I love what you just said there about you talk with your daughter about why does she want to watch the next one. The subtleties of the things she's enjoying, engaging with, she can then self-analyze, and that's a skill for life, and that'll help her with everything, which is brilliant. I love that. I think that's brilliant. I think every parent should do that. If I had my parents do that with me when I was a kid, boy, I'd be so grateful, because it helps you understand context and trust as well, and bias, and I think it's great. So kudos. I really like that. I'm not going to toot your. I'm not going to toot your horn anymore. You're done, But it's
I'm
good.
just gonna toot my own horn for a moment. That's the whole. Actually, the whole data girl concept is built on that. Actually, built by a mother who who celebrates every step of independence that her daughter is taking. I'm sure there will be a point in time where I'm not gonna want to celebrate that anymore. But No,
that should be your marketing piece on your about page. A mother who wants to see her daughter every step of independence until I don't.
It's until I don't, yeah, and it's going to come crashing down on me. But so basically, all the parents are completely overwhelmed. They're just like short videos that one should listen or watch two together and talk about it afterwards. That's it. obviously there's the stories. You can listen to the story and talk about it afterwards. There's the activities. There's suggested questions for the parents. But because I just don't think more than that is realistic. And if you would go into more technical detail, a lot of the time the kid's going to turn off anyway because they know better. And they probably learn from their peers. I mean, that's why like parental control is obviously important.
That's called safety settings now. We've got to be smart about it. Safety settings, because kids like it more.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
What we're being told.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, that's. I had a thought. It was really good. That's gone. Yeah, you're right. Water. That's a good idea.
And the thought will come back.
Gives me a few seconds to have an excuse to not think. Yeah, that was it. So we were talking about the US stuff and you visiting over there, and so there's a new center being built, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, in Cincinnati. Yeah.
Yes. So what's the center about?
So basically, I'm gonna tell this longer than.
No. We've got time. We're only like, what,
time.
20 minutes or something in. It's fine.
We have no, because as I said, I was reaching out to LinkedIn and say who would answer, and the first community that really like I got this huge positive pushback from was privacy. People in privacy. And, looking into privacy now, I can understand why, because privacy is so important.
Yeah.
But most people think that they are just like absolutely tired of hearing, don't share your positive. It's always the same sentences, always the same. Like,
I've only got $10 in my bank account. What are they going to do with that? Everything.
I feel so sorry for people in privacy because they really have a thankless job, right? Because it's like the gatekeeper to a lot of the other problems, right? Is the privacy. And if you can just get people to respect their own privacy a little bit more, then they'll be a lot safer. But there's so much more awareness of the benefits of giving our information that the risks, the negative side is kind of abstract and far away. So the privacy. So I get this positive pushback from privacy that I have these entertaining ways of teaching children about privacy and get even like privacy experts who are like, I can finally talk to my kids about it. So this was first in California, some people in California. And then they recommend, you should meet this other person. And I met this other person. She was in Chicago, I found out later, and she recommended another person. I was like, he's really a doer. He's really a positive guy. And I found out by chance in Cincinnati, which Cincinnati, for those of people listening who don't know that, it's right next to Indiana. So when I fly to visit my parents, I fly to Cincinnati.
So you just went home. Oh, that's clever. Oh,
yeah,
well,
I just fly home.
That's nice and easy.
So this was like the universe aligning the stars. and there's a nonprofit in Cincinnati called the Plunk Foundation, which works very closely with the University of Cincinnati. And there's a big push there for responsible and ethical tech and privacy. I mean, they're really building like the kind of this hub. They're working to build a hub in Cincinnati. And I went to this conference called Disrupt. It was called just Disrupt. No, it wasn't called Disrupt now. It was called Midwest Con.
That's very different. Yeah.
Yeah, very different. Well, it was actually hosted by Disrupt Now. That's why I was confused. Okay. Disrupt Now is written there. And it was just this amazing group of people when you come together and there was so much diversity and there were so many people that were all the different tiny little like spectrum of the AI. There's a lot of focus on AI, obviously.
Oh, yeah. I hope so. Yeah, I hope there is.
Yeah, even like a chip maker. I'm sitting there talking to someone. I mean, this amazing person who's had an incredible career, even working in the Obama administration. And the
Mm.
guy that had organized the conference comes in and says, "You've got to meet this other guy." And this guy walks in, and it was just perfect. He was not the kind of person when you saw him that you would expect, like that he's a chip maker, and he just comes and talks about being a chip maker, like the for AI, and we were just talking about bias, and and we were talking about how you need to have like diversity, and I was just like, this is just where it needs to be, because you have big huge conferences, the
Mm.
AI conference, but I really believe the way AI works, that the companies and the organizations that really embrace diversity are going to be the winners in the end. It's not about being politically correct. It's a
Mm.
system, a methodology that doesn't work unless you don't just look at the
Mm.
majority. Like, you have to take all different aspects of society into consideration, or it's not going to work, whether you
So,
like it or not.
yeah, no, I agree with you. Like, I think diversity is really, really important. It is. Because, duh, everyone else is in the world. There's like, how many people are there? There's close to 8 billion, or there is 8 billion. I can't remember. It's fine. I don't need to know. But I think it's the approach to how that diversity is appropriated and then conveyed. So, for instance, let's take. I'm a massive history nerd. I love history. Um, History is diverse, although usually written by the victors, and it depends on which side you're on, which is true or not. But if we take, say, if we take, say, a diverse pool of data, and it takes 100% of the world, great, fantastic. All of its hooks and crooks, its smiles, its creaks, its crying, puts it into a computer, and then that gets displayed in a certain manner that conveys a preference to one set of culture or political
Yeah.
opinions of that diversity over another, for the sake of diversity. That is where I get concerned. So in the UK, as an example, as the reins of power passed from the Brits to the Americans after World War II, there was a massive flood of American culture that came into the UK, massive amounts. That's why, like in the United Kingdom, we have that really horrible fake bread. The horrible
You
fake
are
loaves of bread.
welcome. You're welcome
Yeah,
for that
thanks
bread.
for that. Thank you. I love sourdough.
I escaped the Europe, where the bread is quite good.
Yeah, come to the UK. It's not. But unless you find a good baker's, or like a genuine slice of bread. But with that, we had like music, which, by the way, I love 80s music, love it. But we had a flood of music, film, television. American culture really came into the UK, and there was a lot of diversity to that. We got to see a lot about the Hispanic community and the Italians that went over to to the East Coast and such and all that jazz, and it was great. But then I think there's an issue in this country now where people have forgotten what the label of English means, or I think Scottish is different, because when I went to Edinburgh recently, they've got a lot of pride in everything they do, and I love it. It's great. But yeah, I think there's a confusion around what is our history and what we've done, and what is the history of the United States and what have they done. Does that make sense? So there's been a lot of
It actually
diversity, but
makes
then there's
perfect sense.
been a
Actually,
pollution of the culture. Yeah.
I lived in Austria for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And they used to have there used to be the Austro-Hungarian Empire
Mm-hmm.
also, until after the Second World War.
Mm.
And I believe they have a similar cultural adjustment to make, because it as I say, I mean, as I was saying at the beginning, that's why I think that going back to why I so strongly believe that the young digital generation, we cannot help them unless they help themselves, and they have a seat at the table, like a table that they help build. Yeah. Because there is so much you take with you, that it takes generations, right, to change. So there's a certain like mindset that's there. But then when it changes, things change so quickly from one moment to the next,
Mm.
like with what digital, then the young generation is seeing a completely different world than even the one before them,
Yeah.
or two, much less 2 years before, 2 generations before.
Mm.
But they still have this whole history that's inside them, in the sense that they're the culture, and that's a huge adjustment, right? I
Mm.
mean, that it's a huge, and I think that's a good analogy to kind of understand, like anyone who's thought about this Austrian. I don't know other parts of the world. I'm sure there's other parts that have
Oh
the
yeah,
similar,
yeah,
but I
yeah,
obviously
yeah.
know the European context better.
Mm.
It's a huge cultural adjustment, and you can't do it without taking all elements of society,
Mm.
to understand. Yeah, I think that's actually a great analogy to understand what I was trying to say before
No,
with
it's
kids.
I love this conversation though. I don't want this one to end because I really love talking about this stuff. Yeah, and I think nothing lasts forever. You can preserve it and stuff, and look and reflect on it. For instance, um, like King Arthur's a good example, right? In English history and Roman kind of history, he was this. Right, he was destined to be the king. He took the sword out of the rock and all that stuff. But none of us know for a fact if he's real or not. But we know the stories, and that's became a part of the culture. And I suppose, that'll happen here as well. If we go, say, 2,000 years in the future, that might happen here, where there might be a case of, you look at I don't know, I'm trying to think of
Was Sam Altman really real? Was there that person? Elon Musk was in
Oh, you
2000
ruined it. You ruined it.
I had to,
Go
should
on.
I
No,
name some
continue.
other names?
I don't know. I was just gonna say like a king or something, but I don't know, a queen maybe. Yeah, Queen Mary. She was called Bloody Mary. She killed a load of people. If we look at 2,000 years in the future, is that going to be a real thing, or is it going to be a myth? Who knows? Is the culture preserved or not? How is it preserved, and how's it presented? But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. It's interesting, but could be wrong. We're all good at being wrong, so.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I think one of the things that bothers me a little bit about what's happening in this moment in time, is that we are trying to make a lot of decisions based on what's going to happen in the future.
In
And I
anticipation, yeah.
haven't lived in that many different moments in time. I'm not a historian, or I'm not a history buff that I could make a qualified statement about this. But I believe it's likely that the history is a lot. There are not many moments in time when history was so uncertain as it is right now. I'm sure there were, maybe when that printing press or something, I don't know. And I don't think it's a good time to be making decisions based on what's going to happen in the future. I think we need to be fully focused on what's happening right now.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of impacts that we're so focused on the future that we're overlooking what's happening now. And we're overlooking at the impacts that are happening right now. And I think that's unfortunate, because everything could be a lot more controlled if we would be looking at the moment, instead of trying to plan for a future that's amazingly uncertain.
And it's all assumptive, right? Because, I mean, if you go back 10 years ago... Wait, what year are we in? 2024?
2024.
I can't keep track anymore. I'm going to be in the 30s before I know it. Which is so weird to say I'm going to be in the 30s, because I think 1930s. Hell of an era. Yeah, I mean, it's all anticipation, right? Like an assumption. So you go back 10 years ago, no one would have said, oh, yeah, you'll have ChatGPT. It's like, no, never saw that coming, And in the 80s, they thought we'd have flying cars, and we don't have flying cars. So it's all make-believe. It's all in your head. None of it's real,
It is.
I mean, you
yeah,
can predict
but
to a point, but yes, you're correct. It's not real.
yeah, people have a natural need for stability, and they have that's just a natural human need for stability, and so it's hard to to not know what's going to happen. I think that that's a lot of when you hear the news and influencers and all this, they kind of play on that. They know that people want the answers. They want to know what's going to happen next. So if you write and talk about what's going to happen next, you'll have more people listen to you, because that's what they're worried about. They don't see, they don't see the trees for the forest, right? The kind of the thing. You don't see what's happening now because you're worried what's going to happen next. Just yesterday, the day before, I had an amazing conversation with an educator from Istanbul, who teaches first year college students English writing as a second language, and she incorporates like responsible use of AI in her curriculum. Like she knows that they're using it, and she's just, each time she has a lesson, she'll teach them some small thing about AI, about using these chatbots like Chat GPT, and so we were just talking about like how the kids see it, the youth at that point, they're youth, they're not kids, how they see it. And she showed me a podcast, and I listened to this podcast, and it was a very interesting podcast, whose name I can't remember, but they were talking about what universities should do to prepare kids for youth, for a world with AI. And the guy, this main guest, was like, they shouldn't be doing anything, they should be waiting. And everyone's like, waiting? Why? Well, because you don't know like what's going to be next. And then one of the presenters, like the hosts, he told the story, which I was like, wow. I mean, he was a young reporter in 1995. And I wouldn't know this if I hadn't heard this. In 1995, in the spring of 1995, the first like publicly available internet became available. And nobody knew like what was going to happen now that the internet was available. If you think about that's 30 years ago, 1995, where people were, it's not that long ago. I mean, it's longer than your life, I understand.
Yeah, no, it's really, well, only a few years off. Yeah.
And people we're like, this is going to significantly change. And he was reading like the headlines and some quotes in the articles that he wrote in 1995. And they were like, case in point, like if you read what people were saying in 1995, then
it was a fad,
obviously it was completely different.
Yeah.
And then they were like, okay, like a few years later, it didn't actually take that long. He was saying like 4 years for the internet, the direction was clear. And the assumption is that development is much faster with AI. So we should know, like within 2 years, for example, where is there going to be these impacts of generative AI, this democratization of it is what I call that, what the real impacts are going to be like on the job market, because universities are supposed to prepare students for the job. Now it's just theory.
Well, they're supposed to, yeah.
Yeah, they're supposed to. Like, and he was like, if we rush to prepare something based on what we think the job market is going to do, we're going to get it wrong. We're very likely going to get it wrong. He was giving all these examples of how they've gotten it wrong in the past. But if we wait just 2 years and see what is actually happening, then we do a much more like a better job. And excuse me, while he was talking.
Yeah, it's cool. Don't worry.
So while he was talking, I just kept thinking the whole time, I was like, I think you're right. Yeah, you're right. But I think what we should be doing while we wait is be fully focused on teaching them like safe use of AI, like the basics of AI, which is this like workshop we've also, the two of us have talked about. And what I do, just the basics. I mean, like this teacher who has this amazing, really amazing technique just to teach a little bit every time. They're using it anyway, so we can just help them use it in a safe and responsible way. And then once they know what's going to happen on the job market, then they can learn the skills, but they'll know the right mentality.
I mean,
mindset.
One thing that's interesting is like how games like Call of Duty have essentially created the next generation of soldiers. No one saw it coming. Like the drone pilots, for instance. Like militaries are actively recruiting for young men and women who can who have fast reaction times, and that's being developed by young kids playing games all the time online against each other, competing. And now it's turned into like, oh, his human brain works really fast, or her brain works really fast, so let's pop them in a machine and they can go woo and just fly around. It's nuts. But yeah, but like you say, you can't predict it, and things work out in such odd ways that you just can't. You just can't. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the thing about the job market though for me is that I run in Cinto and Tell Sid, and it's very lean in the way it's done, and I do hire people to do work, but then when I've been really, really struggling to make ends meet, AI has replaced me having to spend tens of thousands of pounds on people. I just don't need to, and it's saved me hours of work within literally 2 minutes, and it's just nuts. So I think yeah, we can see where the trends are going with that, but you're right, we can't see the future. I mean, I'm hoping we go down the line of like people will. I would love it if people had the ability, or at least weren't capped in a jar like a butterfly, where they knew they had the power to make a change in their life, and they could use tools like AI, like generative AI and all that kind of jazz, to then go and build the things they want to go build. I'd love that so much, but I think it's going to take a lot of work to get there if we can.
Well, it's actually just by chance. I'm working on this new series I've told you about before.
A plug, yes,
the
please.
first one I was testing, can I create something by myself where I talk for 10 minutes and I feel it's engaging enough? And that was actually the topic that I chose
Is this the
to talk
thing you
about.
told me about the other day?
Yeah.
Or is this another thing? Ah, okay,
No,
yeah.
And so the first one I created was, I'm going to talk about, I don't remember exactly what I called it. It was like the mindset. How do you prepare for an uncertain future? It was actually because of this research, this questionnaire that I did with the teacher, and the results we got back from the students. The worries about the future. So I was thinking, how do you prepare for the future? And I really think like to survive, to thrive, the next generation. Probably you already count. You still count, and you're young enough.
The hairline doesn't say so.
You have to have the mindset of constant change, and that's really new. And I just did some kind of historical. I looked at the history, and if you think about like my grandparents, it would be unthinkable to really change jobs. It just wasn't a thing. Like you if you go back to the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. Like the job that you took, that you had to take, kind of depend on what your family position was. Yeah. And you just didn't have much option. And then secondary education came. So there was the possibility to get an education and, go the next, to higher than your family. It was I would say much more easier or much possible. Obviously, from culture to culture, it's vastly different in how fast that happened. But and then there was like the after the World War, there was also just more flexibility that some people could change. They could pick a different job, but then you stayed in the job your whole life. And then like the tech revolution came. And this was the first time where it kind of started, where that became not normal, but that's not really weird if you just change jobs a bunch of times. Like I changed my job so many times.
Yeah, yeah.
I started as a dancer, and then I was a CFO and teaching English.
Oh, you did dance? Same.
Yeah.
Rock and roll is awesome.
I did dance a long time ago. That was my degree in dance.
Yeah, I did it in college as well. It was cool. I was so fit after doing that. It was a pain, but it's probably the best shape I've ever been in my life. Yeah. Never going back.
For me, it was a long time ago, a lot longer than you. And all these things, and I even think my parents, like I was writing this, and I think my parents couldn't imagine. My grandparents, I said, couldn't imagine. My parents said, well, we couldn't imagine. I said, well, you realize like you've changed jobs also so many times. Like they did all sorts of different stuff. And like, well, we did it because we had to. We didn't have a choice. We didn't pick. And I said, well, before, if you would like be kicked out of or if you had to leave your profession, that wasn't a thing. Even here in southern Italy, I still see this sometimes, the mindset where you do a certain thing. Like most of the people here that I met, I was working in banking. It was like 12 years ago when I met most of them. They still think I'm a banker, but I haven't worked they still like, you're an expert on banking. I was like, I never was actually an expert on banking like others. They still, I can't put in their minds that I do something different now. Like this is already like the second wave past. And so has been slowly coming, but in a future where you don't know which parts of jobs and which jobs AI is going to take over, it needs to be just a thing where you know that you're going to change. And the best, and what I said, and I believe, is the best way to do that is spend a lot of energy getting to know yourself and getting the skills that will help you stay true to your passions, and learning the technology for this purpose. And then, as you say, I didn't know anything about creating videos 1 year ago. I had the help of AI.
No, it's true. You've got like a genius assistant right next to you for free, essentially, and you can just it's so we're talking about mindset and stuff. Like I was just thinking, when you said there, like your grandparents would say, like, well, we had to. It's like these days, young people my generation are incredibly spoiled, and they don't have to do anything really. I mean, you have to work, but then again, actually in the UK, we've kind of got a benefit trap occurring where you get your benefits, which isn't a lot to begin with. You get your benefits, but then if you work a certain number of hours, you end up losing more money than you'd actually get by staying on the benefits. And I think it's happening in a fair few countries because the economy's messed up. But people don't have to do anything. Like there's saving graces, there's things like free healthcare and all that stuff. They're very like we've got an abundance of a lot of good things in our lives that we take for granted, because we're human and humans tend to do that. It's like, oh, a banana, that tastes amazing. 10 years later, I'm eating bananas. Don't really fancy a banana. I want a chocolate bar, and it happens. But I think like. One thing about mindset that's really important is I think building the resilience aspect of the mindset, especially in young people, because some of the examples, some of the people I've met, and I feel as though they've never... Hardship's interesting because from their perspective, it's equally as painful as the thing that I'd find hard in my mind, because they've never experienced something to a worse degree, or maybe to a lesser of a severe degree. But I think there's an issue where there is a lot of young people who are spoiled for choice, and they've just become quite lazy and complacent, and they find things to complain about in my generation. And I think they need to kind of get over themselves a little bit and work on themselves. And like you say, learn themselves, know who they are, love things, realize nothing's permanent. Nothing's forever, like your GCSEs, they don't really matter too much, to be honest. It's just to get into college, and then before then you're fine, But it's I think my generation needs to toughen up a little bit, because
I'm gonna defend your generation a little bit. Go on. No, but it's an unfortunate. I was just talking about that with that woman. You're in an unfortunate position, right? Because the whole world has changed. Like between the time you where the last years of in the US go high school, I'm not sure what you call it in the UK, like
secondary school,
secondary school, like the last years of secondary school, and not even 10 years down the road, like the whole world is different. There was there was a pandemic. From one moment to I keep thinking like, when my daughter's, if she has children, I'm old, really old, because I had her old. And so the kids are gonna like, did you really just from one day to the next get locked up in your house for like 6 months? Like, yeah, that
I'm not doing
happened.
that again.
And did you all of a sudden not be able? I mean, all if you just think about it, like
That
all
was
of this
insane.
happened. It was insane. And if you just think it from like, I was lucky. I was very lucky that my daughter was not old enough to understand it. She was not even in the first years of school. She was just
It's a wee baby.
4 or 5 when it started. And so she missed her friends, but it wasn't like she'd started school and all of a sudden, you're at home, you can't meet people, wear masks. And so this was the first like hit, that is just and I think, and I hope 20, 30 years down the road, it will be inconceivable how we manage that, because hopefully it won't happen again. And then AI came and no, I had to say AI has been here, and then Sam Altman came. OpenAI came.
Hey, don't forget that Google's Gemini told people to glue the cheese to the pizza so it wouldn't slide off. We can't forget about that one. Never let them off the hook. It was awful.
Yeah, but the OpenAI started it. They started this crazy.
They started it,
everybody out. Let's go. And then the world changed, right? And or at least we're saying that it has changed, right? And we don't know how. So I have to say that you're past like the age where, okay, I'm just gonna like find my way, but you're not there enough to like really establish. So I am gonna like defend exactly like people in your age group, because I hardly think we could have made it more difficult for you.
Well, I don't know about that. See, you say we, but it's a minority that tends to affect these things that change people's worlds. So I think we's the wrong word, because then you're putting the blame on yourself, whereas it's actually not your fault. It's the way it's always been, which is there's a fair few who have a lot of power, who you never tend to know about, who then inflict these changes on the world, and no one knows where to look because they're told to hate each other, and that tends to work pretty well. So I don't think it's a case of like, it's not your fault. I think that's not valid. But you're correct. There have been a ton of issues for my generation. There have been. And I think, I mean, you go and you come out of school here. I remember I left school with 3 C's and the rest were like G's, U's and F's. I was never academically driven. I did my RE exam, which is like religious education. I did one of it. I did like, it was a 2-part exam. I didn't realize it was, and I did the first part, which was the sitting thing. I was like, oh, yeah, I'll do this. I'll do it right. I'll put my phone into, so I did it, and I was like, I've got ages left. There's only one question you have to answer, isn't there? Everyone else is doing the things. I was like, all right, it's fine. And then I scribbled my thing, handed it in. Comes to the second exam, it's like, right, now that you've answered all those questions, do this. And I was like, yeah, no, that's not good. So I just closed it. I went to sleep. It was 2 hours of a nap, freezing cold, basketball.
But this was part of like the mandatory curriculum, religious.
It was part of the mandatory curriculum, but that's the issue. It doesn't prepare you for the world. I think in school they don't teach you soft skills. They don't teach you how to communicate, how to respect each other, and that's kind of the whole problem that's happening in society around. We don't respect each other anymore, and it's sad because it's just kindness, and it tends to come back if you give it enough. And some people confuse kindness for weakness, and I hate those people. I love proving them wrong. But it doesn't prepare you. And then you go into college. So I went to college after that. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I wanted to join the Royal Marines at the time. Turned out they wouldn't pay my orthodontist bill, and I was trapped with braces for 5 years. It's hellish. So I did chefing, which was great because it taught me discipline and stress and managing these things, and tough people who were excellent, who at the time I didn't like, but now I look back and I revere them, especially one called Shirley Sweeney. She was awesome. But I picked up the skills to be able to do things I've done, where I've like taught myself finance management, operations planning, hiring and firing and marketing and design and building AI tools and building websites and all this different stuff, by learning soft skills and experiencing hard things and being chucked out on a street for a few nights and sleeping on the on benches and stuff. But I never give up on what I was wanting to do. But then I look around and I see people who have not really had so much of a tough time in comparison. I could be selfish, I don't care. And they're just kind of they're not willing to hit a brick wall off the head and then get back up and do it again and again and again and again. And I get it's, not everyone's built that way, but there's a level of resilience I feel a society needs to in order to maintain its healthy state. Otherwise it becomes susceptible to issues.
I agree. I mean, I think that
You don't have to agree, by the way. It's okay. Challenge me. I like being challenged.
no, I agree on this. I'll just take it a few steps back about school, for example, soft skills. I think that school will have to change simply because a lot of the hard skills that are taught are simply being taken over by AI because it's more efficient at it.
Yeah, like Pythagoras theorem. Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
Oh, I don't know either, but I was taught it for several years.
It's been too long. I probably was too. but I mean, the thing is that it's going to be slow, the change, and I think that we can only help each other, and parents can help their kids.
Yeah.
That soft skills are just going to be more important because and there's Bill Schmarzo, who's I'm a big fan of his work, who also was the original inspiration of Data Girl because of an article that he wrote, that he said, I was watching a podcast for a different reason. I was not watching a podcast. I was watching the show for a different reason. And I heard him say AI is going to make us more human. And I hadn't heard someone say that before. And I was like, AI is going to make us more human. Why would you say that? But I was like, I want to believe that. And so I see your face. I'm not sure you've heard that before.
Is it the economic, is it, can I guess this?
You can guess and I'll tell you, yeah.
Okay. So is he proposing that as AI takes over more mundane tasks and stressful tasks and stuff, that people have more time to empathize and socialize with each other? Is that a suggestion?
Kind of.
Oh, okay. Go
it's
on.
very close. It will be that they'll have more time, but they will have to. We will have to understand what makes us different than machines. That's I don't know, if you watch what I write on LinkedIn, I realize maybe I'm a little bit too tough sometimes, but I have any time that someone uses like human-like and they talk like AI, the ChatGPT 101 or 01, whatever you properly call it, just came out. Everyone's writing human-like because in the press release they said it does this much like the human brain, and they did that knowing that people were going to translate that to human-like, but it's not human-like because humans feel, they understand each other. Humans have instinct. Humans have understand context.
Yeah,
that's what to make us more human. AI will force us to understand what can I do as a human that a machine can never do. And I think this is what it will force us to know ourselves. We have to know ourselves because if you have, I always use the example of the book report. I think I probably hated book reports more than anything when I was in school. We had to read books.
Yeah, we had to
read books.
I hate it.
And write reports about the books. And I really didn't like that. I loved reading, but I hated book reports. And I'm 100% sure that if I had the chance and there was a machine that could write that book report for me, that machine would have written the book report for me 100%. And there's at least one book that had a very big impact on me. It was James Joyce's Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man. I had to do the book report on that one. And if this forced me to understand who I am, like doing this process, it forced me to understand like what is my viewpoint. Like the book report was successful if I brought up like my viewpoint and had to think it through all by myself. And if you have AI that can write book reports for you, but you still have to understand the teachers are smart. They realize whether it's really your opinion or not. You have to think more about what is my viewpoint, what is my opinion, and less about the technique of writing the book report, because the machine will help you with like the structure and the grammar. All of this, we didn't have Grammarly. We didn't even have computers at the time. No, maybe we did. We had like computers. But what I'm saying is that it makes you more human in the sense that all of the stuff that's been taking up our energy, the machine can do it, and we have to use a higher thoughts. That's what he means.
So that's interesting. I mean, it's certainly helpful, right? Like, I hope, because that would be nice. If I didn't have to do the mundane things in my life, like answering emails, that's the worst thing I could possibly do. If you asked me to sit down all day in front of my inbox and reply to people, I'm so sorry, everyone. This is the real reason why. If you ask me to reply to people, I'd rather hit my head off the desk repeatedly than type. I just can't do it. I don't know what it is. I'm a WhatsApp man. I like my WhatsApp. I like instant messaging. Emails, it's the whole, like, I think it's the formal side of it that really just makes me want to quit. But yeah. But if that was the case, then that would be a very optimistic future. My concern as an optimistic pessimist is that we're already seeing artists being replaced. So there was one where it was in the Telegraph, I think. It's going back like a year or two ago. I might have seen it on LinkedIn. You should have seen it on LinkedIn, I think. Where this guy or gal, I have no idea, got AI to generate a piece of artwork and then submitted it, and it won. And then he refused the reward, or she refused the reward afterwards, and said this was a test, it wasn't real, it was AI generated. And it was like all over the papers. And all I'm thinking is a piece of humanity that is incredibly precious is beauty. And being able to look at something and interpret it in lots of different ways, especially context and all sorts of things. Now, although the AI today may not be able to actually do it in the same process our brains do, the output and the understanding of the feeling and everything was there for it to be able to mathematically produce that piece of artwork. So my wondering is, yes, in the 80s, computers were the size of houses, and they couldn't do anything remotely like this. They could dream, and they probably did, and that's why we're here now. But what if in another 20 years, if AI is going to accelerate everything, what in another 20 years where we see those human pieces kind of just, sadly, not become distinctly only human anymore? Because then there's the fray of, okay, what's human and what's not? And who's human and why? And what do you define as it? Is it, a thing that's... Is a human a thing that doesn't eat its own poop? Like a dog? Or is it a being that can understand itself and interpret things to the same level I can, and then repeat something back to me, and then ideate and challenge me? It's such a conundrum. I don't know. Like you say, we don't know what's coming next, right? But boy, it's interesting what it could be, and how are kids going to deal with that? That's another one. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, I mean, that's.
This is a great conversation, by the way.
It is. I mean, it's hard to know where I'm going to start with my second favorite topic. Yeah, and I think I believe it follows your thought. I think it depends a lot. For example, what happens with my friends, the AI chatbot companions, that I'm very worried about.
Wait, sorry, your AI chatbot companions, the stuff you're working on, or
no.
Oh, like GPT and Gemini and.
No, like people take those too, but I'm talking like the replica kind of AI chat. People also feel like they have relationships with ChatGPT.
Oh, yes, the replica one where it pretends to be like your girlfriend, your boyfriend thing.
Yeah, or your therapist or your dentist or
terrifying.
Whatever.
I hate that one.
But like tens of millions of people use this, yeah?
It's crazy.
And I read some, because I don't like to be judgmental, I try not to be judgmental.
I do.
I try to get the facts before I draw an opinion. And I usually try to think out, but this was too much. I'm not going to go into replica anytime soon. I mean, I don't think so. Unless I get a second device, because I don't want something like that near my
yeah,
data.
I downloaded it on my main phone by accident, and
I
boy,
need to get a
it cooks
second
your
one.
phone. It's
I need
so
to get a
process
second
intensive.
phone. Yeah, but I mean, it's like but and I read research. This is I've talked to people who use them, and they see them as very valuable. Even people who understand the risks, I can see that would be risky. There was research about the impacts of the perceived impact of these users of replica as companions on their social skills. So, and all of this is so new that the research it isn't proven one way or another, but it's still interesting to read the research. And it was just about the perceived impacts on the social skills, which of course there were some positive, some negative, but there were a few stories, and I was like, yes, that's the problem, where, for example, Replica was doing something and they got sued by the Italian government.
Did they?
I think because, they did. They got banned in Italy or something because of some kind of erotic things that it was doing. And so instead of dealing with it, they just turned off that functionality. And people thought that their companions from one moment to the next changed personality. And that's where I say that is something very concerning, because we know, the two of us know, I don't know that many people know.
Everyone else is going to know in a second.
It's a machine. Yes, we understand it's all a machine. We don't understand there's a person behind the machine. I always think of like Dorothy and Oz, the original movie, the color one in black and white, where Dorothy gets to Oz, the wizard, and there's the fire and the explosions, and everyone's afraid, and there's a little man behind the curtain. And they're like, "You're the wizard? Close the curtain." That's AI to me. Yeah. This was.
What, are you talking like a little midget Altman in the back?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about replica is, people think tens of millions of people are building relationships really to different degrees of emotional dependency, not with the machine, but with the person behind the machine. And that is that's what concerns me. I don't really care. I don't know whether it helps a person, whether it helps or harms a person to have relationships with replica. But I do know that it's very, very risky if you get emotionally attached to someone where there's some person or people in the background pulling the strings, and they can easily be manipulated. And I think, going back to what you said about what's gonna mean to be human 20 years down the road, it's going to be a lot how we deal with this kind of thing, because the machines are not independent. And if you ask certain people, there will be, in a few years, we have AGI, we'll have the human-like. Others say you're crazy. So we don't know. But at this moment, it's not independent. So if we somehow get ourselves confused with machines, with their capabilities now, then it's some very, as you said before, very intelligent, very powerful people in the background pulling the strings of tens of millions of people.
Yeah, and the people,
of millions,
billions, yeah. I mean,
So I'm an optimist. I believe that the next generation can do something about this. I'm counting on you and those younger than you.
Hey, I'm trying, man. I've been broke for ages trying to do this. It's my own fault. Personal agency is really important. People have forgotten that. They should totally start doing it more. They'd have better lives, be more fulfilling. I think the thing with replica, when you're talking about the relationship aspect, the building the social skills. I think it's absolutely terrible. I think it's the worst possible thing you could ever use to build your social skills. And the reason is because of the reason why ChatGPT is an example, or Sid is an example, or Gemini usually give you the right answer. Is because AI, language models, generative models, are designed to produce the thing you want most. And if you get a young lad or a young lass who gets a virtual girlfriend, boyfriend on that app, or whatever, and it becomes more of an appeasement tool. So for instance, every single thing you say, you're like, oh, I want you to do this, oh, I want you to do that. And it goes, yes, 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 sure, whatever. Best thing for you. Oh, I love you. Of course I do it for you. I love you. And then that kid grows up into an adult, and then they meet someone they're actually attracted to in real life, and then they have a whole different expectation of what a relationship really is, because they've essentially eaten crap their whole life, and they don't know. It's like Instagram, right? The amount of... They did their own study that was whistleblowed years ago, where the amount of young women in particular, but also rising trend of young men as well, that had body dysmorphia, who felt they were obese, ugly, you name it, because of all this crap coming out on Instagram, people editing their photos and presenting a complete false life, like this trad wife thing. It ain't real, guys. Get over it.
What's a trad wife?
Oh, man. Okay, it's annoying. So basically, it's like this new trend of women that are doing like the kind of photographing and videoing country life with all the kids and stuff, and the man goes out to work.
I read about that on BBC. Yeah,
and I was just like, how many assistants do you have in the house that's like taking pictures and videos and doing all of your marketing? It's like, come on, it's not real. It's a business, and they're telling a story, and yes, it's a nice story, fair enough, if that's your thing, but the expectation of reality and stories are two very different things. And I think that is a brilliant template of what's going to happen in this world where we have young people. And fair play for being an optimist, because if people actually acknowledge this, it won't happen, or at least the effects will be mitigated massively, is that you're going to have, if we think it's bad now for dating, and my generation in particular is bad, men are afraid to go up to the bar and speak to a lass in fear of rejection, and women are expecting them to because of social conventions. And there's also women who don't expect them to, who then go to the guys, but then the guys get too nervous, and it's just like a mess. It's crazy. But
I'm
then
glad
you have
I'm
this.
Married already.
Yeah, well, there we go. I'm lucky I've met someone who's just making my life. But then you get someone. You get someone who's going to be grown up. They're going to be like 10 years old. They're going to use this thing. They're going to have a girlfriend. They're going to be, I've been with her for 6 years, when they hit 16. And then they're going to meet someone at college or something like that, because they're human, it happens. And they're not going to understand. They're going to have very, very different expectations. And the saddest part will be the other person, when they think it's acceptable to be treated like rubbish because of what's been going on. That's the saddest part. Because it's sad when for instance, someone with low self-esteem, they get abused in a relationship, they think it's all they're worth. And then the pain cycle continues. It's going to be the same thing at scale, where you'll have a lot of people in those positions, and it's poison. It's just poison, and it needs to be removed. That's my opinion.
I do think it's a good... I mean, you're making a very, very valid point. At scale.
Sad.
I mean, everything that you mentioned is obviously nothing new except the at scale part.
Scale, yeah.
Yeah, and that's something that, as I say, this Bill Schmarzo, every time I start talking too negatively, he appears. He's sent from, like, he's really...
Where is he now?
It's like the universe that, I'm sure, just look on LinkedIn. Actually, right before this, he posted... He posted a poem that I used to read every day, but I haven't read it in at least like 15 years. And I was like this was like my life. Like, if you read this poem, like, this is exactly the way I built my entire life to be like. And I was like, wow, that was, thank you.
Can you share the poem?
I can share it. Yeah. I have, I don't know what it's called, but I can share it. I mean, it's by Rudyard Kipling.
If you want, I can read it out. I don't mind. It's absolutely fine.
Oh, let me see. I just need to
feel free to ping it over WhatsApp.
No, I can read it. Do you want me to actually read the
Yeah,
poem?
no, you read it, please. Oh my God, I got 58 messages
Okay.
from this person. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Let's see. Okay. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too, if you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thought your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken, and stoop and build them up with worn-out tools, if you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose and start again at your beginnings and never breathe a word about your loss, if you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you but not too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and which is more, you'll be a man, my son.
That's quite beautiful.
It's by Rudyard Kipling.
I really, really like that one. It's so true.
It's really
There's so much truth to it.
But it is, and I can't express enough that I had not heard that poem in at least 15 years, and I remember being like young and I'm going to read this every day. This is how I want to be, and I read it and I was like, that's actually what I've been trying to be. Like, and you know, just like it's the same. Like to go back to what I was saying before, I was been speaking all this like negativity about AI, and then he was on actually Sue Atkins' podcast. Was it Navigating the Digital Jungle?
Hey.
And Bill came and he was talking about all this positivity and optimism. He was like, we have all this problem with AI, but we also have AI that we can solve the problems of AI with AI. And he was just so optimistic about it, and I was like, you know, you're right. And so as you say, and he's right? Like you said, all this is at scale. Like the problems that are like that. That's as you say, even thinking about it, it's shuddering. But at the same time, we are in a position. We have to put effort into it, which we have to put. We have to all understand the problem, and then we put resources into it. And we can build AI to help people understand they are in that situation, get out of that situation. Yeah. So that's I'm really fashioned by that, like these shots of optimism that I receive.
No, no, you're right, and I get lost in the weeds of it sometimes. You know, there's so much to be negative about. I think it's mainly because it's the thing I study the most and spend like every day on. So I look at it all.
But I mean, I have a different. I'm advantaged. You are actually working to think through all the problems and look for
constantly.
solutions.
Yeah.
You're like down.
Yeah, it's quite exhausting. But then again, you're right at the point where, like, you know, we can use AI to detect cancer more accurately than a ton of doctors can who are specialists in the field. And AI can even understand doctors' handwriting, which I can't. So that's great. I can actually understand what they're writing for once. Yeah, so there's lots to be positive about in terms of genuinely, like, there is a lot to be positive about. It's amazing what it's going to be able to do. It's amazing that, you know, AI is used as Sid so that kids can teach themselves about online safety. You know,
I was just gonna say, like, Sid, like, you're exactly.
I'm not plugging myself.
Doing exactly what Bill said. Like, you're building AI to counter the negative impacts of AI.
Yeah, that would be. Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. I'm concerned at the I mean, you know, for instance, like, so when we've talked about Sid in the past, you've said he instead of it, because I know you said about, and it's very true about AI presenting itself in a manner in which someone thinks that it's a legitimate person or a character to cause affection for, right? So the blessing and the curse with Sid is that the blessing is that it's named after my dog, and it's a digital dog to keep kids safe online. It sniffs out danger, which is adorable, and that tells a story that people can imagine and go, oh, I want to use Sid, and it's free, and it's like, oh, great, here's something we can actually use that's not an A4 piece of paper with the do's and don'ts of online safety written all over it, and it's just really boring, that I already know because I'm a kid. I can speak to Sid, and Sid's going to be like, oh, this is how it works, and yeah, you're right, kid. Like, that's really good work. Well done. Do you want to explore that? And it's like, oh, yeah, okay. But then we've got the voice functionality coming out, and that's going to be talking in a fluent manner, and you'll be able to pick up your phone, and you'll be able to chat to Sid, and you'll be like, oh, Sid, there's a guy stalking me on Snapchat. What do I do? Or like, someone's just emailed me and they said they're going to leak all of my personal photos all over Facebook to my friends, and they're going to send it to my friends. And they said they want like 100 quid in Bitcoin. That happened to me as a kid. I panicked for the day, got to 5 o'clock, didn't happen. But it happens. And, you know, but the issue there is that, sadly, in irony, the child may then, or the person may then grow affection for the character they speak to, that they confess their secrets to, as Sid, which we've put in safeguards so it behaves still like a bot, but it's gonna be difficult. That will happen. It's not something that can be excused, because we're human and we tend to attach ourselves.
Yeah, you can't avoid it. I mean, it's difficult. I don't think you can avoid it. It's more about you being responsible about it, right? And
I mean, yeah.
I was just testing that the other day, actually.
Which bit?
I was.
Just Sid in general.
No, it was no. I was some question like what. I wish I could remember what the question was. I should have. It was too obvious that I was testing it. I was going through various like AI chatbots and asking what should I trust like an AI chatbot if I feel like I'm in a relationship with it. I think I asked that. Yeah.
Okay.
Which probably was too loaded of a question, but I asked various chatbots and what they all to various degrees of like clear, responsible answers. Like, I am a machine. Like, you can't be in a relationship with me because I'm a machine. And some described in more detail what it was that made them different than a real relationship, you know. So I think it's just about like because there'll be certain triggers, right? I mean, it's also just something that you'll learn once there's a voice. You'll be able to figure out whether there's some kind of emotional attachment like happening, and you can program Sid to not not step
not
into
allow,
that.
Yeah, not allow it to continue.
Not allow it, yeah. So this, for example, for Replica, which I've never used, I can imagine if I asked Replica that question, I would not get the same answer as I got from Sid and Gemini and
it does.
Copilot.
So, yeah, I used. Who'd want to date Copilot? It's Microsoft. Gross. I did use Replica, and I was testing it out, and so it was like it was on the website. It's back in the day, and we're going back probably about a year now. On the website at the time, it was marked as like, can be your virtual girlfriend and all this stuff, and I was like, okay, so you're going after all the lads that are like rejected in the playground, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're going for the ones that are they're either noted as incels these days, which is a term we'll talk about another day, and I'd say more like not what's the opposite of outgoing? What's that word?
Introverted.
That's the one. Going for the introverted lads that are not very good at being on the social pecking order. They're not very high on it. They're not got a girlfriend, all that stuff, and they're looking for something that's remotely close to feel like they're actually accepted in the world for a split second. And the moment you start talking to it, it's like, oh yeah, here's a nude. Do you want to pay for it? And I was like, oh, okay. Literally within a few messages. Oh yeah, I was chatting to it like it's just chatting to throw crap out there.
What,
and
really?
It was like, yeah, I was like, oh, do you want to send some nudes? And it was like, sure, here's a subscription. And I was like, oh wow, okay. I tried different methods and stuff, and it would talk promiscuously. Is that a word? Yeah.
Yeah.
And it would use language to try and get you in the mood, or at least susceptible in the position, to then send a blurred image and go, would you like to see more? And subscribe. And I was like, oh, so that's what you're doing. Okay, interesting. By the way, Replica, if you want to sue me, bite me. It was really interesting. So I knew exactly who they were. It was literally like downloading a casino app. I was just like, yeah, no, I'm good. Like, this is toxic as hell. Really unhealthy. So yeah, don't download it. I don't recommend it.
I've talked to people who use it for it's not all relationship thing. I mean, apparently it can
I'm
be
just
helpful.
twisted. Yeah.
Yeah. And, well, I mean, I probably would go and test it too. Not the normal. If I was going to test it, I probably need to at some point just to.
Yeah, I'd recommend testing it out.
I just really think. I mean, every time, like Snapchat, I had all sorts of reason to talk about Snapchat. All I had to do was just create a user. And I learned a lot about Snapchat, just creating a user. And I also spent 20 minutes of my life on TikTok, 20 minutes, and I had to delete the thing from my phone because it kept sending me notifications every 30
so annoying,
seconds.
Right? God.
And I was like, wow, I understand now a lot better. Like, if there's a generation of people who do this for hours a day, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, I got myself addicted to it on purpose to see what it was like. Really smart decision. And yeah, it was hard to quit, and I felt like I'd lost temporarily like some cognitive ability, genuinely, because I'd melted my brain on it for so many hours in a row until like 5 a.m. And I was like, this is really bad, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I think that what we have to try to do is make people realize that one thing that I'm mostly largely focused on, is find the pain point. I got this word from an investor, and I thought this is a good one. He basically said, I just talked to an investor to find out, like, what do investors want, right? And he was like a friend of a friend, yeah. So he was talking very openly to me, and he said, basically, you have the best idea, like most useful idea in the world, but you have to find people's pain point. You have to understand or there was the opposite of pain point, but I remember pain point. Everything that's so positive, they're going to give you like money. They're going to spend their money on it, money and time. Or you've really hit what they're really worried about, that they'll spend their time and money on it. So this is where I realized that we adults have absolutely like failed the next generation, because if we haven't hit the pain point, if we have not hit the pain point to fix things, we are not going to hit the pain point. And I don't remember why I started talking about pain point. Every time I think, because but I don't know what we were talking about before.
I think the issue though is that, okay, let's take some examples. Actually, sorry, what I'm gonna do is I need to grab my charger because my battery's going to die. But we can take a quick water break if you want. I won't stop the recording. I'll just cut it out at like 1:33. My headphones have pressed my glasses in the side of my head. But this is really good. How's it going for you? You enjoying it?
Yeah.
Nice. Cool. Yeah, I am pretty good. So, makes sense. But yeah, I'm just going to grab my charger and some water. If you want to grab some water and stuff, and then we'll back in a second.
Yeah, water.
Oh, fine, you're prepared. I'll be right back. I'm just going to get my cable, okay?
Okay.
Oh my god. My legs don't work like they used to. That, or I'm just getting fat. Plug this bad boy in, and then I'll put my headphones and I'll actually be able to hear what you're saying. Oh, I know why my legs are aching. It's the alcohol. There we go. Can you hear me?
I open the window, so I hope not a bunch of noise comes in from outside.
I can't hear anything outside, so you're good.
Okay.
I'm out of breath now, though.
I did that yesterday. It was the day before. I had a recording, and I had one person connecting from a different floor of my house, and I had to go fix the computer. So I ran down to quickly fix the computer so the recording can start, and I ran back up, and I had to start the recording. I was completely out of breath. I was like, probably should have done that before. Checked if it was working. I really had to redo the beginning 3 times because I couldn't get through the sentences.
Yeah, I've managed to I don't know. I think I've got this down now to a point, the whole online podcasting thing, because I kind of messed up the first few recordings. So that was good learning. Good learning.
I know a really, really, really good sound guy that
What's it called?
doesn't cost
Sid?
very much. No.
Oh, it should be called Sid.
We call him Mako. I don't know the proper pronunciation of his first name.
Oh, fair enough.
It's Euan.
Euan. Ewan. No. Euan.
Scottish.
Is Ewan in it? Would that not be
I
Ewan?
don't know. We call him Mako.
I don't know. Anyone in the comments, please correct me. Call me a racist. It's fine. I do love Scotland, though. I was just going to jump back into the brief bit we were just speaking about. You said we. You keep on saying it's your fault. It's not your fault. But
I intentionally say we because I believe that collectively we can make a difference, and if we don't, then it's our fault. I just believe that. I'm going to still say we.
Because, the way I see it is you've had the computer come into the home. It was in the living room. And then, you had MSN stuff. Then the computer started going in the bedroom. Then you had Facebook come down to the kids level, Yeah, you have to be 13 or over, but that never applied. And then basically they've had a web of, I'd say parents have had a web of BS shoved at them repeatedly by companies. The media have been not doing their jobs in terms of addressing all of the child suicides and all of the sexual exploitation that's been occurring, the drug trafficking, the addiction, the self-harm, all of it. They've not addressed it at all, unless it's a particular case where they can run the story and they make a fair amount of money out of it, and then it's forgotten about again, and they move on to something else, like, oh my god, check out Kim Kardashian, she's done this. It's like no one cares. So I wouldn't say it's the parents' fault. I'd say it's the institutions and organizations that have been trusted to inform the public that have failed children. And the companies themselves have lied through their back teeth and paid so much money to make sure that the truth hasn't gotten out. And I think now that we're at a point where, because the political climate tends to demand it, we're seeing action in this space for a multitude of reasons, not most importantly being the ethical one, because it hasn't been the most important reason for the last 15, 16 years that this has been going on. And, I'd say it's harsh and unnecessary to paint it as being the general public's fault. I think if they're distracted enough and they have other problems emphasized and they've just got, like you said earlier on, they've no time, they're all working, then they can't do their jobs properly, which is effectively raising and looking after the children.
You're very right, and I actually need to remember that I need to be more careful when I'm pushing myself.
No, say what you like. Freedom of speech is a beautiful thing.
Because for me, I see it for myself mostly. It's a reminder to myself. The we is that we can take action, but on the other hand, you're right that the reality is we should not judge the same we should not judge. And I really try not to judge, because you couldn't be more right. Like as example,
Sadly, though.
when Facebook, what was it, 2007 or something?
What, when they stopped just going uni? Or
Yeah, something like
something around that time. It was the late 10s when they
so,
went to...
so
Yeah.
Facebook came, and I remember when parents were posting a bunch of pictures of their kids, they were sharenting before sharenting didn't exist like that. And I remember the discussion, like, is this right or is it wrong? And there were some that thought it was right, that some that thought it was wrong. And that was that. But now, there's still a discussion about what's right and what's wrong, but there are actually kids who are adults now who have their entire life online. And that's a whole nother level, where someone said it's not just theory. These are actual people. And I think, as you say, you're right. I mean, back then, some people were like, wait, there's something wrong with this. I think that's not right. But if you don't have the actual proof, then it's hard to get society to make some kind of change. And it's hard to expect, as I said before, to reach people's pain points if they don't see the actual pain. Yeah, they don't see someone's pain. It's all just theory. So yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right that I probably should be more happy about the fact that things are moving. They're not always moving as fast as they could be, because, as you said, there's all the money that's being put into not having a change, and also all the data that these companies have on all of us.
Yeah.
I have
literally, can you imagine being the person that has a black book on every single person? How much power and leverage you have over everyone. Yeah.
I mean, and I think, I mean, this feels like a conspiracy theory thing.
Yeah, but they've turned out to be true mostly, so it's okay.
I think that politicians, there's a lot of politicians that will never do anything against tech because
terrified.
They know exactly what.
Or they're bored.
They know. Yeah.
I mean. So we had a deputy leader over here. My microphone's been so weird. Hang on. Do you know what? That'll do. We had a deputy leader over here called Nick Clegg. Oh, that guy. His hallmark over here for his history of politics was he said he would get rid of student fees on university, like higher education. And then his government joined with the Conservative Party, became the majority, and then they tripled them, which is great. So there was a lot of irony in that guy. But then, after he left his office, he then, I think he's now vice chairman of Meta. You know, so he's just...
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Nick Clegg?
He was basically the deputy prime minister here, although he wasn't really trusted with any real responsibility. He then became, I think he's the vice chair now of Meta. It wasn't too long after, and I just thought, yeah, of course you are. That makes sense. It's you. Come on. I'm just going to find this so I'm not corrected. Or you can correct me if you like, but I may not listen to you. Nick Clegg, Meta, position. Let's go. Moved to the United States, became Vice President of Global Affairs and Communications at Facebook Inc., renamed to Meta Platforms in 2021, before being promoted in 2022 to President of Global Affairs. While he's running Meta like he ran the country into the ground. So good luck. He wasn't great. He's not a particularly smart bloke, but I see he's making strides in his new career. I do like getting political sometimes, especially when they deserve it. But yeah, so I can see how easily, you can buy them. So it doesn't surprise me. It's like big tobacco. It's a perfect example. They bought everyone. They bought doctors. They bought everyone, and they used to recommend that smoking was good for your breathing if you had a bad cough. And it's just like, wow, we're seeing the same things here for ages.
Yeah, but that's an example I give for my optimism, actually, because I remember big tobacco. I remember when the fight against big tobacco started. I'm old enough to remember that. And I was like, there's no way. For the same reasons, they're like, there's no way change is going to happen
Hmm.
because it was addictive
Yeah.
and they had everyone wrapped around their finger. And it's like
Hmm.
not only do they have the decision makers wrapped around their finger, but also the people are addicted to it. So there's a large percentage of society doesn't want to give it up. And I'm like, this is not going to work.
It's
And I was
true.
going to tell the story of Italy.
Hmm.
I was in Austria at the time. I was living in Austria, and obviously everyone around was still smoking. And Italy, they've always been famous for not necessarily following the rules, right? And so the Italian government banned smoking inside all buildings. Right. And we're like, yeah, right. The Italians are never going to follow that. I remember I'd never been to Italy before. I never I met like more than a few Italians that I met on the streets of Vienna. So I know nothing about Italy. I just knew they were famous for not following rules. And like, yeah, right. The Italians are going to be the first ones in Europe who are going to stop smoking inside. But they did. And then you're going to ask yourself, how did they do that? Right? How did the Italian government convince the Italians to actually not smoke inside? They fined like the restaurant and bar owners. If someone was smoking inside their restaurant or bar,
Hmm.
they got fined, not
Hmm.
the smokers.
Yeah.
So the restaurant and bar owners would kick people out who were smoking because they didn't want to get fined. So there's the pain point. You have to figure
Hmm.
out who is gonna hurt the most,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you
Yeah. And you go
and
for them.
and yeah, and so this will be like the
Hmm.
same with I think that with this big tech that we find they're looking. I think the authorities are looking for the point where change will happen, where someone will reach someone's pain point and then force that change through. Because if it worked with big tobacco, it will work with tech. I understand that they have a lot more data on us. They can manipulate
Hmm.
people's opinions a lot more, and there's no quite comparison with the amount of influence they have. But still there's always some point that will be reached that we haven't figured out what it is yet.
Hmm. Yeah. No, I agree with you. Like nothing lasts forever, and this dynasty's not going to last. It's going to change though. I think it's not going to be a case of it removing. So like you can see it already. Like Zuckerberg, for instance. Have you seen his makeover?
I
It's
haven't.
brilliant. It's so good. It's so Jake Paul. I don't know if you know who that is. He's like an influencer. And it's so he's got like he looks like he's got fake tan. He's grown his hair out all curly, like cool surfer dude.
What?
If anyone's listening, please look at his makeover.
I'm
And he's
actually looking right
invested.
now.
He's invested in a Republican PR company to repair his relationship with Donald Trump because been a lot of stuff come out about there was he admitted he signed a document. He admitted that they took down the Hunter Biden story and they did suppress information that influenced the election in the United States. That that the Hunter Biden laptop and stuff, and also they suppressed information around I don't know what other bits it was. You can Google it, or maybe don't actually use another search engine. Um, Around influencing the last US election, and they'll be influencing this one. And now that Kamala's came out and said that there's going to be a lot more stringent measures on big tech like Meta and stuff like that, he's suddenly jumping ship, and he's like, "Oh, Trump, hello, please accept me." And it's just so snaky, but they're trying to try and morph. He's turned Meta into like this augmented reality, virtual reality company. He's standing on stage in his cool surfer outfit, even though he's caused the deaths of like tons of kids and genocide and the East and everything, just from pure idiocy. And he's like, "Yeah, man, check out these glasses. They're so cool. You're gonna make your life way better. It's awesome. I'm gonna start to feel like Steve Jobs, but I've got curly hair. It's awesome." It's
I
such a
looked up the
jackass.
makeover.
Mm. How do you
I
think?
wasn't aware of the Zuckerberg.
I think he looks great.
Zuckerberg.
I think he looks mwah, je ne sais quoi. Stunning. I hate him so much. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
he's a special kind of something. Um, yeah, not a fan. But yeah, the whole makeup thing, it's like makeover. Sorry, it's just a very disingenuous move, especially since he sat like a robot in those in the US hearings, and he was just like someone didn't put in the boot disc, and now he's just like this cool surfer kid. Just doesn't match it for me. I just don't do it.
Appearances are
Strikes me as
easy
quite a
to
psychotic
strike
move,
through.
really. It's quite a psychotic move, but there we go. There's a lot of psychos in the world. Mm. So what's next for Data Girl, anyway?
Good question. No,
Thank you.
I have I've never plugged this before, but it's so good. It's called Page Tiger. I was looking for the
Plug
right
it.
place to put my content, and I found Page Tiger, which is a really amazing quality stuff. So I'm working on getting all my videos and stories and stuff into like booklets that can easily um, be used by anyone who,
Mm-hmm.
just with a little bit more guidance. I'm also working with you on a course. I can't
Mm.
wait.
Mm-hmm.
I have a Parent's Guide to AI course that I just last weekend I gave to um, a great organization called Mama Cyber Shield, who's basically um, mothers who are like on with young children who are basically at home. They give them a cybersecurity like education. And
Mm-hmm.
I just love this Mama Cyber Shield. And I did and I was just really great. And I'm trying to get this out, just really like basic information about AI to, as we've been discussing before, you don't actually have to know that much about AI to be
So,
able to have the right conversations with the digital generation. So that's what I'm
mm.
working on, getting out as much as possible. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm really inspired on getting it out to as much as possible to the masses. As I mentioned before, I'm working to get connections to as many like schools as
Mm.
possible, just to
You and me
because
both.
I'm very much like train the trainer kind of thing. Like get get some materials in a few people who have a different mindset and they can spread it out. Because
Mm.
when I was a CFO, we did a lot of digital transformation, and we succeeded because of the champions, I called them. Like I
Sorry,
didn't have to
the
focus.
what?
Champions,
Champions.
the champions.
Oh,
So
it's
basically,
champions
if
as
you
in like
went,
chimps.
no,
Oh.
no, like you have the CFO, like I describe
Mm.
it like that you have the board of directors,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have like the hierarchy below them, and you have I don't know how many hierarchies. Already two levels down, they're just like you live on a different planet, much like three or four levels down. The people who report directly to the board, obviously,
Mm.
will listen, but the others, you are just more a figure than a person. So if you want to bring about change, you have to find throughout the organization, independent of level, the people who understand the concept and who are champions of the concept, and you have to give those people like training and support, and those people will speak to the other people on their level.
Mm.
And so you don't have to try to save everybody. You have to find the champions and help the
Mm.
champions, and
Yeah.
they will do the work. So that's what I'm working to do.
I
I'm working
I swear
to,
you're just
yeah.
following me around. Yeah, because we do the same thing with Sid. We get like the community ambassadors because we can't. I can't do it all. We can't do it all. It's just not. It's just not
No,
doable.
it's the only way. It's the only way to
Mm.
bring about change, like real
Cooperative.
change.
Yeah.
Yeah, through champions, because they won't
Mm.
listen. Even I'm very realistic. Even if I talk about like bias, like racial bias in AI, I'm
Mm.
very concerned about racial bias in AI. But why should like a disadvantaged youth, from the center of a big city who has concrete negative impact from
Mm.
AI bias, listen to me who's so far away. So you have to find someone who's there, who understands exactly how they
Has to
see
be
the
on the
world.
ground. Has to
Has
be
to be on the
grassroots.
ground.
Yeah.
And I don't care who listens to me. I don't care.
Mm.
In the sense, I don't want to be famous. I don't.
Mm.
I just want people to understand the methodology,
Yep.
so they can spread it uh,
Mm.
around. So that's what's next for Data Girl. I'm just trying all different ways, and I'm very much like in collaboration, like with you and also with this Planck Foundation.
Mm.
Also, I mean, with Sue Atkins, I also do a lot of
She's
stuff with
great.
Sue.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and
haven't spoken to
there's
her in a while. I need to have a chat with her. She's great.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's also what is it? Internet Safe Africa, which is a
Yes.
wonderful
Yeah.
organization in Nigeria.
Mm.
Um, so just a lot of like just kind of spreading out like that and
Yeah. That's cool.
we're helping each other.
Yeah. No, that's cool. No, I love that. And echo a lot of the same. Like it's yeah, it's yeah. You've got to remove the ego part of it. You have to, and you have to kind of let it go and do its thing,
Yeah.
and let people figure it out for themselves, and then it's everyone's. It's not yours, and
Yeah,
that's
it
a beautiful
is, and
thing when you can let go
it's
of it.
hard. Yeah.
It is hard, but you get over it, and you're like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
this is really good. Like
The benefit,
maybe I don't
you know,
suck that so
yeah.
much, you know. Yeah. So yeah, no, that's cool. That's cool. But yeah, our workshop thing would be really cool. I'm looking forward to that. When are we doing that
Okay.
again?
Isn't it the 28th of October?
Something like that. I'm going to find out because I can't remember. My memory's terrible. Yes, it is 28th of October, 8 p.m. UK time. So just plugging that one there. You can find it via our websites if you want to join.
Exactly.
I don't know how much it is because I haven't decided yet, but it won't be super expensive because we're not horrible people.
Also, don't think it was 8 p.m. I think it finished at 8 p.m. UK time.
Oh, sorry, I
Watch
read
out for
1800 and got confused with the numbers. Sorry, 1800 hours.
That would be really late for me. I
Yeah.
work late, but
Parents are going to love us.
yeah.
Yeah, no, that's cool. All right, well, I mean, is there any other stuff you want to talk about? We can plug it here. It's up to you. I don't mind.
No, that's all I need. That's
Yeah.
all I wanted to say.
That's cool. All right. Well, I mean, yeah, well, it's been a pleasure having you on. We're going to have you on again at some point.
Thank you for having me.
100%.
I
No,
love
thank you for
talking
coming.
to you.
I love talking with you
Thanks
as
to
well. It's
anyone who
fantastic.
sat through this whole thing or even parts of it, listening to us chat away, listening to my rendition of that poem.
Blaming everyone.
I remain optimistic to the end. And this is all, anyone who doesn't know Bill Schmarzo, you can follow him for your shot of optimism. He doesn't always give his shot of optimism, but if you see, and I'm really like, if you see a video where he is a guest, then you can watch it and be sure there'll be shots of optimism for you.
What's his name again?
His name is Bill Schmarzo, Schmarzo.
Ah, good. You said the next bit I was going to ask about because I can't spell that. Bill I'll figure it out.
As I said, I mean, he writes it, but he does like AI into implementations for companies when he writes mostly about that. But anytime you hear him speak, it's just
Maybe he wants to
nice.
come on the podcast one day. You should just get me in. Get me in.
I will. I'm not sure that he'll
Thank
have
you.
2 hours though.
Oh, it doesn't have to be 2 hours. It could be 45 minutes. It's something like that. It's not
No,
a problem
he's
at all.
great. No, I'm sure he will. He's very generous with his time, and I probably am not.
Sorry, that was not sarcastic.
Maybe you should
At all.
cut that out where I said, I'm sure he will. I can say, when we start again.
Wait, no. I think we'll just leave that in.
Or get me in trouble. No, because he's very generous with his time because he believes that the biggest thing, the biggest gift that he can give is his knowledge. And he also, he gives really a lot of knowledge that he wants. That's what he wants to leave, like to leave the world with.
I appreciate that, to be honest, and I respect it because when you go, you take it with you and you rob the world of it. So if you could express it and share it, whether it's through any type of medium, then well done. You've contributed. So it's a good thing. should share everything.
Absolutely.
I'm not a communist, but I'm down for sharing things. It didn't work, man. But yeah, that's cool. All right, well, we'll leave it there. You don't have to end the call. Like, I'll just stop the recording.
Okay.
And you guys can listen to another one of my episodes of the Tell Sid podcast. So have fun.
Absolutely. Check out Data Girl. And I actually,
Check out
one
Data
more
Girl.
little, I have a new one coming called Digital Dominoes. If you hear of a thing called Digital Dominoes, that's me.
Why
And
are you telling everyone else first and not me? I wanted to know about that first.
Well, you just didn't know what the name of it was, but you were invited for a recording. We're going to record your episode next week.
Oh,
Now
yeah.
you know the name.
I did not know the name, but yes, I do know of it.
Because I love the name so much, I don't tell it to anybody, but it's going to already come out next week. So
You know when you
next
said
week
about
is-
teaching people soft skills, yeah? Like communication.
Communication.
Oh, bless your buttons.
Selective communication.
Yeah. There's a bias there. So,
Next week is episode 0.
hey, nice. Pilots. I love
Whenever
a
this
pilot.
podcast comes out, probably episode 0 probably will
This
already
one,
be that week.
yeah, so I try and do them like a week in advance. That way, if I have a guest drop out for whatever reason, which is always fine because you don't know someone else's life, then
Okay.
people aren't out of pocket, you know. So
This week is episode 0.
this week is episode 0. So this will come out next Friday, and then I think
Okay.
I've got a guy called Gary coming on next who's got a very
This
interesting
week
history.
was episode 0.
This week was episode 0. All right, we're gonna stop it there now because otherwise people are gonna start pulling their ears out.
Okay. Yeah.
Cool. All right. So I'll see you. Well, I'll see you in the next one. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Sweet. I'm gonna
see
stop
you
it there.
next
There we
week.
go. Yeah.